I think I should mention right from the start that you don't really need to share your art with anyone, and whatever you decide to do with your art is completely up to you. But there's an argument to be made for the importance of putting your art out into the world and in front of others. I notice that most artists tend to have the impulse or desire to engage with others through their work to some capacity, even if this isn't the primary motivation behind their practice. And I want to foreground this by saying that this trait is not universal, and some artists are perfectly content with keeping 100% of their work hidden from the world. But if this isn't you, and if you don't already, I believe it's crucial to honor the urge to have your art seen by others, and neglecting this part of the practice has a very particular set of consequences. Just to pick an example, speaking from personal experience, I find that it's quite easy to feel repetitive, uninspired, and unprolific if I go through long periods of not letting any of my artwork leave my sketchbook, or not exporting some of my paintings and just letting them live inside my computer. Even if I've been drawing or being creative pretty regularly throughout these periods, if enough time passes without any action, I'll begin to feel as though I've hardly made anything, or that I don't have anything to show to anyone or even to myself that I have been creative this whole time. It's so easy to lose track of the work you've actually done if you never do anything with it, such as putting it out there or cataloging it. If you take the time to do this, you're at the very least doing your future self a favor by making it possible to look back on your work and on your development. But you're also fulfilling much greater roles than this in the process. When you share your art, however you choose to, it's worth recognizing that the presentation of the art is itself also part of the art. If art plays an important role in contributing to human experience, then it's necessary for the art to make its way in front of others in order for it to have this effect. And the manner in which you find it fitting to present your art is just another creative act. So from this, the way that I see it is that it's a noble service to your fellow artist and fellow human being to make and share your art. And if you don't already, I implore you to consider approaching this creative act with the same level of attention you gave the art you're sharing. But an integral part of this equation is that you care about your work and find it important to prioritize making it to begin with. When you first established in your practice the foundation of care for your craft, letting others into this personal world you've built through the means of sharing your art is, at least how I view it, an act of compassion for them. Your creative output brings enrichment to a world that refuses to incentivize or prioritize it, yet sorely needs it. When you make your art seen, heard, or consumed, you have, in a way, stood in protest against the systems and culture and society that downplay the importance of your art, and having chosen art as a way to spend your time when all forces in life would seem to suggest that there are much better things to focus your attention on. Sharing your art is making a case for art's sake that it still serves a purpose in this world, and by doing so, you're playing an active part in contributing to its longevity. Your creative offerings to the world also help other artists, and in a way, shows that you care for them. There are times where all we really have as artists are other artists. We can't really rely on the world to get what we do and why, or to make space for us and our unconventional interests. But it's only other creatives that understand the tendencies, inclinations, longing, turmoil, and joys that encompass the artistic process and the life of an artist. If no one else, artists are among the people you should keep the closest, and each instance you present your art is an opportunity for connection with like minds. There's also much historical significance to the premise of sharing the art and the importance of doing so, as the vast majority of art, music, and literature in existence today serves as evidence of this. Artists investing in and documenting their art throughout history has contributed greatly to civilization, and we have only the efforts of recording, publishing, and preservation to thank for these gifts to humanity, as they would be unknown to us otherwise. Every piece of artwork that an artist decides to hide, destroy, or allow to become forgotten or lost to time is one less artwork to contribute to the edification of humankind, and is a net loss in potential experiences to be had through engagement with said artwork, whether it could have impacted entire generations in some way or just one person. There's always the possibility for a single person to take something away from your art and go on to affect many under your influence. This sort of domino effect has been responsible for some of the most influential artists and art movements in history, and I view it as an honorable tradition to partake in through the simple act of sharing your art. It might still be difficult to consider the worth of sharing your art, especially after hearing all of these grand and impactful reasons there are to do so. You might think, well, my art isn't that great or profound, so why should I share it with anyone? As I said at the beginning of this video, you're not under any obligation to do so, but I still believe you should anyway, regardless of your skill level or how valuable you think your art is. One way to look at sharing is as a step that sort of rounds off the art process. After you've done all of the work to create the art, sharing it can sort of be like finalizing, packaging, and shipping your product. It's not necessarily the case that a piece of art needs to be shared or delivered before it's deemed complete, but there's certainly useful experience to be gained from doing so. One of the most common reasons why people shy away from sharing their art is that they just think they're not good enough. But when looked at from a different perspective, the act of sharing itself is essentially the same now as it will be 20 years from now when you've progressed significantly. If you have any interest in possibly showing your work to anyone ever, it's not something to wait for. You need to become comfortable with putting your work out there now, because doing so is its own skill, and expertise and proficiency alone isn't enough to overcome these fears. It's just something you need to accustom yourself to. Another aspect of the act of sharing to consider is that in order to enjoy the positives on the other side of presenting your work, you actually need to have something to present in the first place, which requires you to invest more care and more of yourself into whatever you decide to put out there with your name on it. In a way, if done from the right place, sharing your art can feed into a virtuous creative cycle where you make work you care about, knowing you'll show it to people. So you take the work with hopefully a healthy dose of seriousness, which means that you'll start to prioritize this thing you're creating. And when it's done, you can finally release it into the wild, so to speak. Clear this item off your queue, relish in the satisfaction of pulling through and actually completing something rather than abandoning it, and channel all of the energy, discoveries, and lessons learned throughout the course of this endeavor into the next thing you work on. For most artists who run this process in their practice, this cycle often takes the form of personal projects, which by their nature demand that you dig deeply into yourself and commit to them so you can present the results of your findings to the world. You are, after all, the only one who is able to. I think it deserves mentioning what I mean exactly when I use the word share. Sharing your art takes the form of any and every way you choose to distribute your work. And I don't mean distribute in a commodifying way. So this could include publishing, curating, recording or documenting the process, releasing or premiering your work, live streaming some aspect of it, or presenting it live in person, whatever you choose. I view creating and posting these videos and streaming on my channel as ways for me to document and output my art and my thoughts and opinions about art. And the more I insist on not just making my art in these videos, but sharing them as well, the more important I find it is for me to continue doing so. You have to find your medium, the manner of sharing that resonates with you, and finding the appropriate avenues to share your work might also require some creativity. Despite the countless ways we're able to distribute and consume media today, there are still more ways to engage with others through your art that either no one's discovered yet or that you're just currently unaware of. I think that if we're going to share our art, then it's necessary that we find ways to do so that we feel aligned with, because sharing is still part of the art and doesn't need to be viewed as some rote administrative task that's disconnected from the work itself. I mean, of course, business needs aside, if they're applicable here, I think we should work towards ironing out all of the pain points in our practice in pursuit of a way of working that has no one part we dread, unless dread is a feeling you personally want to include in your practice. And I should also add, for those who need to hear it, I don't just mean sharing within the context of social media. Try to think beyond the confines of a platform. I already know that plenty of people hate posting their art online or fear that step of their process each time, but do it anyway because they feel they have to. Don't forget that you're a creative person, and as such, you can simply craft your own process and carve out the steps that you didn't put there yourself. Redefine what sharing means to you. You don't have to put your work in front of an audience if that doesn't align with you. Sharing your work can just mean showing a friend. That still counts. The whole point is that you just get it out there. I think that in these days, sharing art is becoming especially an increasingly urgent need. Now is the time to make your art and document or preserve your creations. Cultivate your craft and your care for it, and put the results of your efforts on display for the world to see. Please share your art. We need it. Thanks for listening.